Hello, welcome to Gridiron Gurus. It's week 4 of the regular season. We're about the halfway point. I'm Travis Lazarczyk for the Kennebec Journal Morning Sentinel. Alongside, as always, Drew Bonifant, who just came in from covering the field hockey game.
That's right.
He is your full-service sports writer who can do it all. So, Drew, how are you doing?
No breaks. We're, taking up every minute of the day, but we're here. We're ready to go.
All right. Our guest this week is from Maranacook High School, Jordan DeMillo. Coach, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Now, we'll start out with you're one of the 8-man schools, and imagine you have never coached it before. You get the Maranacook job this spring, and tell us about the crash course in this new football you had to learn.
Well, it was kind of a shock at first, being that I'd only been an 11-man for 3 years, and then just kind of taking that on. But it basically started as soon as we found out Maranacook was in 8-man. I just started kind of looking into online, trying to see what I could find, just the nuts and bolts stuff at first. Okay, so what can I find online? What are the basic defenses? What are the basic offenses? There's a lot online. There's just not much direction. So, I mean, you look in like out in Kansas where they have some of the most 8-man schools, they're all pounding the ball. And then I looked at some California 8-man, and they're all air raids. So it's just like, it is, it's really what your coach is comfortable with, and I guess what your personnel have. So once I kind of figured that out, I was like, all right, this kind of makes sense. So it's kind of do it my own thing and see what works. The clinic that we had at Bates College, I believe the MPA kind of put that on along with Bates and stuff. They had a coach from Vermont come in. They had a coach from New Hampshire come in, and that was really helpful. They kind of went over, here's the stuff that worked for us. Here's the stuff that really didn't work.
Sure.
But they kind of said the same thing that I kind of gathered from some of the online stuff, and that was just, make it your own. Use your personnel, and that's kind of what I looked at. I looked at my personnel. I said, I kind of got a pretty balanced team here where I can pass and run. So we decided to go with kind of like a pistol veer spread, and just kind of it's worked for us so far.
Yeah, you're 3-0.
Yeah, something's working.
Was there anything that really was an eye-opening experience about learning this game, whether it was, oh man, this position is going to require a whole different type of athlete than they did before,
yep,
or whether it's the X's and O's of this play that we've done before, now this is really different. Was there anything that was just really kind of took you back by how different it would be?
Linebacker in general. Linebacker, every single linebacker now has to be a hybrid cornerback. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I kind of told you, my cornerbacks are kind of hybrid linebackers. Mm-hmm. No, it's really every team has to run man. Unless you are really confident in your kids to be disciplined in a zone scheme, you're running man. And if somebody spreads you out, say they run like twins or even trips right, single left, your kids are in man. And they have to know how to cover them without pass interference and without getting blown off the ball. So my practices became, whereas before, like when I coached with Pokey, we'd always, separate cornerbacks, receivers,
sure,
linebackers. And now it's like I got to run them through it all. So it's a little easier being that there's only 2 of us. So we're kind of, we can consolidate on a lot of drills. But the linebacker position is one of those things where, like last year we had Isaac Wilson. He was like 245, kind of a slower, put him in middle linebacker, and he could do that position. He was
stuff the run.
He was really good at it. You can't have that in 8-man. You have that slow guy in the middle, and they spread you out. They'll pick on you.
You can't have Ted Johnson in 8-man football.
No.
And that's really been the eye opener this year that kind of stood out to me is like, 1, my linebackers all need to know how to pass coverage very well, and 2, open field tackles. I mean, I told you that the other night.
Yeah.
It's open field tackling, being able to wrap and just slow down on that main contact. I don't know how many times we've had big plays, teams have had big plays against us because that initial contact was just a roll-off arm tackle. I mean, if you can get your kids to make that initial contact and make the tackle right off the rip, I think that's why we've given up so few points, kind of being the counterpoint name in football, only giving up, I think, 36 or 34, something like that, through 3 weeks. I think it really has to do with just fundamentals of tackling.
You mentioned, I think you're saying you spend an hour or about an hour a week just going over tackling fundamentals, even if the kids already know it.
Yep.
It's like, no, we're going to make sure it's hammered in.
Yeah,
has that been something that you've been working into the practice because you've seen just how important it's going to be in the sport, or was that your approach from the start, and it just has been paying off?
So I started working it in right after the OOB scrimmage. We had a couple, I don't know, probably 5 plays where initial contact was made. We didn't wrap, big play. And I'm sitting there going, this is ridiculous. Like, it's going to be 60-point games if we can't stop on that contact. And so up to the Booth Bay game, I don't know if you've seen Booth Bay play, but they're number 12 QB. He's kind of a man among boys. He's a big boy. And he's hard to tackle. He's a rugged son of a gun.
Is that Crocker for them?
I think so.
Yeah,
he's an animal. And I told my kids, listen, we got the film of these guys. You try to take this kid high, and he's going to stiff arm you into the dirt. And I straight up told him, if any of you get stiff armed into the dirt, and I showed him a clip against Ararat like that, we're running intervals on Monday. So all 3 days that week, we went over tackling, wrapping, where you put your head, where you put your arms, and it really worked. I mean, like I said, I think their offensive coordinator came up to me after and was just like, "You guys tackle really well." He's like, that was unreal.
It sounds like you've had to kind of adjust your coaching style to really focus on fundamentals like tackling and things like that. Anything else you've had to adjust coaching-wise?
Being that it was my first year in play calling and stuff, just getting into the groove as a head coach.
Sure.
I took on a volunteer kind of a little later in the season because first game against Booth Bay, I was alone on the sideline, and my assistant was in the booth. That was tough. Keeping track of my special teams, keeping track of everything while watching the game, play calling. I was just like...
And you need to have the get back guy, right?
Exactly. The Sean McVay pulled me out of the way guy.
Sure.
But it was just, by the end of it, I was just mentally done. And I'm like, this can't happen. Like, I need my assistant on the sideline. So just the nuts and bolts of just being a head coach kind of got to me. But as far as changing the way I coached, defensively, I had to, I was a Mark Bonifant. I don't know if you guys remember him. He was a Jay Tiger. He was a defensive mastermind as far as I was. We had a year, my sophomore year, we didn't give up a touchdown until the 5th game of the season. Wow. We lost in the Western Main Final to Lisbon when they were unreal, but I just kind of learned a lot of defensive tendencies from him. And I had to learn as a coach that I was going to give up touchdowns. No matter how solid my defense felt, I needed to be okay, and I needed to show my kids that big plays are fine, kind of that bend, don't break. And that's been our motto so far this year, is just kind of, we're going to bend. We're going to give up big plays. We're going to give up touchdowns. But being able to stop the next one is crucial, and I think that proved it against Yarmouth, being able to stop their 2-point conversions. We broke, gave up a touchdown, but we were able to kind of stop their 2-point conversions, and we ended up winning by 2. So that was kind of big.
It kind of feeds into that feature that you did, what was it, last week, about the tackling principles across the state, and coaches talking about that.
Yeah, you have to be able to make those plays, and especially when you're hitting less and less in practice.
Yep.
It's tough to, you can't, how many kids do you have, 20?
Like 19.
You can't be hitting each other in practice because you need to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So, what are any other growing pains this year?
Other than that, no. The defensive, so I had noticed before, if you were running an 11-man, your defensive tackle, so your outside ends, sometimes you didn't always have to play. They didn't always have to play contain. Like, we used to run under and over fronts with under pokey, and that means we were constantly shifting our defensive linemen. So more often than not, your weak side guy, didn't have contain responsibility. It would have been your backside backer, and so we were kind of able to move the defensive line quite a bit. In 8-man, your defensive ends always have to have contain. In my defense, I can't. Some other guy, if you're playing, I guess people could use a 5 front, and you could do what you wanted with that. But we've generally been running a 4 front just because the opponents we go with like to stack the box. But your ends always have to contain. Even if you're going to run a base 3-3, your ends really should set the edge and just kind of funnel everything in. Just because you let guys get to the out of bounds line in 8-man, and they might be gone.
Take us through some of the basics. It's got to be 4 on the offensive line, 4 players.
It's got to be It's going to be 5. It's always going to be 5. It's going to be at least 5, and then you can have no more than 3 in the backfield. So,
what about the players' feelings towards it? I mean, because I got to think there are some people who are a little reluctant to be seeing their teams go to 8-man after they've been playing 11-man their whole lives. Have you got a sense that they've started to be more on board with this sport, or maybe that it doesn't even cross their mind that they're playing 8-man anymore? They're just playing football now.
Yep, that was definitely. So we had the kids that I had, had parents who played football in the past, and so there was a little bit of grumbling, if you will. Mm-hmm. Nothing too bad. They were still in support. I told the kids, guys, it's still football. We had a meeting before the year was out. I said, if anything, I think this kind of opens it up. Whereas before, I think we were, the last couple of years at Maranacook, we really only had 2 kids that were getting all the touches. In 8-man, you can really kind of spread it out if you want. If your offense is capable, I mean, I've got multiple kids who've got touchdowns this year. I think 6 different kids who've got touchdowns.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you can spread the ball out. And I kind of told them that, like, on offense, guys, this is our game. Like, we can kind of do what we want on this one. Which kind of, you saw some of the receivers who might be just kind of blocking receivers in 11-man just because it's really hard to throw the ball in 11-man. You need just a consistent line. Just kind of their eyes lit up a little. I might be getting some touches, huh? So that kind of brought out. We didn't bring out any extra kids. I talked to the Great New Gloucester coach, and he said when they went 8-man, they got like 10 more kids to sign up. Huh. Because they were happy about going 8-man. They kept getting, and I don't blame them. I mean, they really didn't belong in 11-man at that time, their program. They were really kind of struggling. So when they went 8-man, he goes, we picked up like 10 more kids. Yeah. And they seem to really be enjoying it, and I think that's great. I mean, it's football.
Yeah.
Like I said, they keep saying it's a higher scoring game, but I've only had one game that went a little high, and it was 38 points, and that was it. So, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, you got to think of those, 170, 180-pound kids who were told they were going to be guards in 11-man and just were saying, why would I sign up to just get knocked in my back all game long? Now we're saying, well, if I have a chance to run with the ball a little bit, that sounds like more fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
if a coach has a program that's struggling with 11-man football right now, or one of the programs maybe that dropped this year because of lack of numbers, came to you and said, give me some advice, which way should we go? What would you tell them?
I'd tell them to go 8-man.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, one, I just think in 11. So even this year, I've got 19 kids on my roster. I take 2 crucial injuries, and I'm going to be able to finish the season, but it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
If we had to go 11-man this year, I mean, even without injuries, even a simple eligibility check,
Sure.
Lose a kid to grades would hamstring me. It just wouldn't be good. And so with 8-man, this year, I only have 19 kids, but I've had 1 JV game. I have another JV game scheduled for Monday. I've got 9 freshmen who would have never seen the field if we went 11-man. We wouldn't have been able to do it any JV games. We couldn't have risked any of those injuries. Whereas 8-man, I've got a little bit of wiggle room. I got 3 or 4 kids who can kind of move between the two. And that's huge for development.
Sure.
If those freshmen, we had this happen last year. We played that one cross-up game against Winthrop, and we had one injury at cornerback, and we had to put a freshman in there against Winthrop.
And that's not fair to the kid or anybody.
He's done. He got rocked, got a concussion, and he can't play football anymore. It was a major concussion.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's the difference between 4 years. You had a senior lining up against somebody who was not developed at all. And that was just unfair to him.
Right.
Whereas 8-man, this kid now, these freshmen coming in, have a chance to play in a few games. They have a chance to develop, and I think that's more important than, winning games at the varsity level is awesome, but getting those young kids a chance to develop and love the game, that's important.
Definitely. Okay, we're going to look at a couple of the big games around the region right now. Drew, seemed like last week was kind of the everybody catches their breath week.
Yeah.
And this week we've got some big ones starting in the Pine Tree Conference with a crossover game between Class B Coney, who's undefeated, and Class A Lewiston.
Yeah, that matchup looks like it. When you look at the records, okay, this is probably just another favorable matchup for Coney. They've had a pretty easy start to the schedule, but Lewiston being a Class A team, they're going to have that. They're going to have that size, that depth advantage, and they've done pretty well, and even some of those losses that they got. It was a blowout loss to Thornton Academy last week, but they're down only 21-7 at the half. So, that's a team that I've been told has athleticism, has speed, and so it looks like it's going to be a matchup that will kind of reveal just how much Coney has going for it. Besides that 3-0 mark, if there are still some questions about, there was a game against a down Skowhegan team in there, and a game against Messalonsky last week. This is going to answer some questions as to just how much of a contender they're going to be this season going forward.
Yeah. Coney is one of 3 undefeated teams in the PTCB right now. The other 2 are Brunswick and Lawrence. They play each other at Keyes Field up in Fairfield on Friday night. Rematch of the Pine Tree Conference Championship game last year, won by Brunswick with a late touchdown, 14-10 in the pouring rain. Brunswick seems to have had Lawrence's number in recent years, but they're 2 teams that there's no secrets here. Dan Cooper's Uncle Pete's name is on the stadium there at Keyes Field, the Brunswick coach. So I expect this is going to be kind of old-fashioned Pine Tree Conference football, 2 teams running at each other and throw when they get their opportunities. But it should be one of the better games in the state this season, I think.
And again, kind of how that Lewiston game will reveal something about Coney. I think this game will reveal just how much of a contender and how much Lawrence will be sticking around, because I think Brunswick was considered.
Yeah, Brunswick was expected to be the favorite coming in, and
so if Lawrence goes in against a Brunswick team that was favored and is playing well, and takes them down to the wire, or even wins that game, it's going to be hard to have any doubts about what the Bulldogs can be, if there are doubts right now.
Sure. Coach, I know you've got a lot on your plate, kind of handling Maranacook and adjustment to a new brand of football and everything, but did you get a chance to follow some of the other leagues around the state at all as a fan? Or?
Obviously I follow Meso just because I'm still in contact with Pokey, and he's having a little bit of a rough year, growing pains, I guess.
Yeah.
But he told me, he's like, Coney's QB is a real deal. He said, he goes, that kid is talented. So it'd be interesting to see. I'm probably going to see if I can catch the box score on that one at least.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that Coney game, but obviously I got a game going on. So.
Sure. Kind of be busy.
Yeah.
In Class Class D South, we have Winthrop Monmouth Halldale against a Lisbon team, another big test game.
Yeah, and those teams always play close games, and sometimes it's whoever is playing best going in is the team that loses that matchup. I remember when Lisbon upset Winthrop Monmouth in what was then Winthrop Monmouth, no Halldale in the playoffs, and then Lisbon had the stronger team the next year, and Winthrop Monmouth came in and beat them. So I guess technically, if one team is doing better right now, it's Winthrop Monmouth. Halldale, they're 3-0. Lisbon's 2-1. But Lisbon has that loss was a close loss to Freiburg, which has been a tough team in Class C for a couple of years. And the other thing about that is it's a real matchup in styles. Winthrop Monmouth Halldale is a team that can spread the field, has a lot of people to give the ball to, scoring 34.7 points per game. Lisbon, on the other hand, is allowed only 8.7 points per game. So we're going to see just whose side of the ball prevails in that one.
Yeah, we had Coach St. Hilaire from Winthrop Monmouth Halldale in here last week, and coming off that big win from Oak Hill last week, that's got to be a confidence boost for the Ramblers.
Yeah, I bet they look at that as being a really close game, just because it has been in years past. So to come away with a 42-21 win is
that's a statement.
Yeah, exactly. It probably puts in those players not so much, oh man, we're awesome, but just like, boy, we can really be something if we're dialed in and if we're on the same page and not making any mistakes out here.
Yeah.
They've got a similar feel to when I played them, and they had Jordan Conan at QB and Rob Steele in the background, and those kids, TJ, I think, Steele, maybe? That team was unreal. They went to the state championship game that year and lost to John Babst.
That's right.
But that was an unbelievable team. And this team, I actually got to see one of their games. Was it the first game of the season they played? No. Where did I got it streamed to me. Yeah, I'm still part of it. Yeah, we won't go into that, but I did get the film on that one. But they're a solid team this year. Their tight end there, or their receiver. What's that kid's name? I think you guys already did a.
Jevon Smith is the kid you think of. He kind of lines up everywhere.
Yeah, they put him every. Yeah, they utilize him.
Running back,
yes.
tight end.
He is talented.
Just football player.
Wow, he's a football player.
Yeah, exactly. And he's kind of a guy who they have a lot of people on that team who are kind of extremes. You know, they have speed guys like Bo Schmelzer and Jacob Susan. They have some guys who are Ian Steele actually mentioned the Steele earlier,
Yeah,
who's more of a runner, but Jevon's kind of that kid. It seems like who you can plug wherever
He
you
does
want to be.
does
you
it
want
all.
to be
He really
want to
does.
be an edge blocker. He can be that. He can run the ball. He can catch it. Kind of that knight in the chessboard, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to do it for us this week on Gridiron Gurus. We hope you enjoy whatever games you get out to this weekend. We'll be back next week to kind of look at the first half of the season as a whole. For Drew, for Coach DeMillo, I'm Travis. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Gridiron Gurus.